So I want to talk about how we pivot effectively after a failure because I feel like people don't really kind of tell you how to do that. People don't really tell you how to pivot, right? People say, oh, you got to pivot. You got to pivot. And you're like, okay, pivot how? Pivot where? Pivot with what? Right? What strategy are you giving me to pivot? So when something doesn't work out, it is crucial to assess what went wrong. This is Girl Take Note, a podcast for women who are looking to turn their dreams into reality. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Girl Take Note. I am your host, Shaunie Sanders, and today we get to talk about something that each of us as entrepreneurs face, but we don't always like to talk about it, and that's failures. And I'm excited about having this episode simply because I feel like I've been facing failures myself throughout this journey. Because as I said, for me, these episodes are really an opportunity for me to really express my journey, how I feel on this journey, and the things that I'm facing on this entrepreneur journey, because it's really not easy. And so I feel like I've been facing my own battles, my own setbacks, my own failures. And it's that old saying of let your setbacks set you up for a comeback. And so when I think about that phrase, because a lot of people like to say it, and I think about it, I'm just like, well, how do we actually do it? How do you actually do that? How do I set myself up for that comeback from something that I feel like I failed in? And so that's why today's episode to me is so important, because I need to know what those strategies are. So I went down that rabbit hole, guys. I told you, I like to go down that rabbit hole. I'm going to figure out what to do. I'm going to listen to the right podcasts. I'm going to watch those YouTube videos. I'm going to try to consume whatever books I can consume to try to figure out what strategies or what tactics or what hacks or what inspiration do we need on this entrepreneur journey just to keep going and to really look at failures as opportunities. Because a lot of times we're really just looking at them as just that, as failures, as something we thought we could have did differently. So I want to get real for a moment. We've all been there, and I'm there right now. I have those nights where you're staring at the ceiling, right? Replaying every mistake, every wrong turn, every what if. And I know you do it because I do it. We all do it. And it's not just, I think, in this entrepreneur journey, but I think this is the kind of stuff we do throughout life where we feel like where we could have did things differently, or where we feel like maybe that relationship failed us, or, we failed to get that job we wanted, or we failed to just achieve whatever we feel like we achieve, or are not in the place that we feel like we should be in our lives. And so we all do that. We all have those moments where we're standing at the ceiling, where we think about every wrong turn, mistake, opportunity that we feel like maybe we've missed. And you know what? It's a hard thing to do. It's painful. But what I want to do today is I want to share a different perspective on failures. One that turns all of those sleepless nights that we've all had into more powerful lessons for us to move to the next level. Because when I'm thinking about my own journey, as I said, this is my opportunity to share. I think about my own journey, and I think about the times where I feel like giving up. And there are numerous times where I actually feel like giving up. Times where I've questioned if I'm really cut out to do this entrepreneur life, because it gets hard. And because it gets hard and you don't see the opportunities come in like you believe they should, then you begin to question if you should even be doing this. You really begin to question that. And so I'm on that journey of questioning, like, did I make the right decision? Did I take the right steps? Did I move in the right direction? Did I connect with the right people? Am I reaching out to the right people? And that's why this episode to me is so important to have, because we need to understand that failures are really powerful lessons for us. And if we're not careful, we will not learn the lesson and we will repeat what we did before. But here's the thing. Each setback or each so-called failure was truly, like I said, that lesson in disguise. it wasn't easy, but looking back on moments in my life that were crucial to me moving to the next step, crucial stepping stones that brought me to where I am today. To be able to say, I took that step anyway, regardless of how I felt, regardless of what I thought I wasn't going to be able to do. And so I really took that step. And that's what I know about when we look at our life and we think back on the things that we overcame, we think about things that we thought weren't going to work out for us, but it did. Those were opportunities for us to learn powerful lessons. And the one thing I think we all need to understand is that looking back on those moments where you felt like it was hard, where you felt like you wasn't going to make it, where you felt at your breaking point, you didn't break. You pushed through and you made it through. And those are the moments we have to really pull on when we're going through something. I want to share a quote with you guys that I've read throughout my research by Winston Churchill. And it says, success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. When I read that, I was like, wow, this perfectly captures the essence of your entrepreneur journey and what we're talking about today. It really does. It captures that. So to start, let's redefine failure, because as entrepreneurs, we often see failure as like the end of the road, right? Like, I failed at this thing, so that's done. But in reality, failure is somewhat feedback. It's a way of telling us that what didn't work, right? And giving us an opportunity to learn, pivot, and grow stronger. So that's really what that failure means. All it is just feedback. It's like, okay, you know what, Shaunie, this didn't work. You tried this, it didn't work. So you're going to learn from that. You're going to take what didn't work. You're going to learn from it. You're going to reconfigure it, right, into something that you know is going to work, because you don't want to repeat the same thing over again. We don't want to do that. We want to be able to move forward. We don't want to repeat that same thing over again, because I don't want to continue to have the same type of failure, because that's that thing that will put us in that depression state. If we don't learn from our failures, if we don't learn from our mistakes, it's like being in a bad relationship. I mean, be honest. You've been with somebody where you're like, oh my God, that relationship was just something I would never do again. I would never date nobody like that again. But then all of a sudden you end up with the same person again. And you keep wondering why the relationships are failing. Well, that's how it is with our entrepreneur journey. It's like, if we don't learn from our mistakes, we're going to keep making them again and again and again, and we're never going to see the progress we want. So what I learned is that one key step in embracing failure is to shift our mindset. And so the last few episodes, my solo episodes, I've really been talking about mindset, because as cliche as it may sound, because we know so many people talk about mindset, it is one of the most powerful tools that we have to fight against negative thoughts, to look at things differently when it comes to failures. So instead of viewing a setback as a negative outcome, we want to see it as a learning experience, with each mistake teaching us something valuable about our business, our strategies, and even ourselves. That's what we want. We want to make sure that each of those mistakes teaches us something valuable about ourselves, about our business, about the strategy, about how we try to make this thing happen. And I think that's really important for us to do, because when we look at that as that opportunity to learn, then that's how we view it. We know that, you know what, that didn't work out. So you know what, I'm going to do it a different way. For instance, I'm a huge fan of Sarah Blakely. She's the founder of Spanx, right? Now, but did you know she started her entrepreneur journey selling fax machines door to door? I heard her tell this story before, and I just found it to be so amazing the way she told it. And she faced countless rejections she talked about. I remember when she talked about it. But instead of giving up, she learned from each no and used those experiences to fuel her drive and redefine her approach. And we all know today she's one of the most successful female entrepreneurs in the world, all from selling fax machines door to door. So if we don't understand that we need to not look at those failures, not look at those things that knock us down as something that is permanent, but as an opportunity to learn and do something different the next time. And I know we've all done it. It's called growing. It's called growth. It's called maturity. I talked about a growth mindset last episode. That's what having a growth mindset is about, is when you can look at that failure and say, you know what? Okay, I didn't do the greatest in that, but I'm not going to take these no's, right? The rejection. When you're trying to pitch to someone, or when you're trying to get customers to buy and nobody's buying, and people saying, oh, not now, or people telling you, no, I can't partner with you. We don't look at those as final, because they're not final. They're just an opportunity to do better the next time. And I'm a firm believer also in what's for me is for me and can't no one take. So if an opportunity doesn't work out for me, then that means that wasn't what God had for me. That's just kind of a firm belief of who I am and what I believe. And so I want us all to have that type of mindset where we know that we can learn from it. So when we go through failures, we kind of change our mindset where we're like, okay, this is a great thing that just happened. We can actually move to the next level. I can actually do something different this time. The one thing I know for sure is that I will not repeat this again. So I want to talk about how we pivot effectively after a failure, because I feel like people don't really kind of tell you how to do that. People don't really tell you how to pivot, right? People say, oh, you got to pivot. You got to pivot. And you're like, okay, pivot how? Pivot where? Pivot with what? Right? What strategy are you giving me to pivot? So when something doesn't work out, it is crucial to assess what went wrong. And that's the key to pivoting. You have to conduct a thorough post-mortem analysis. You have to conduct that analysis. You have to say to yourself, what is the flaw in the business model? Did I misjudge the market demand? Were there internal factors that took play? Ask yourself those questions, because by understanding the root cause of something, you can make an informed decision about your next steps. And I think that's so important, because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't do that. I don't take enough time to sit back, look at something that didn't work and say to myself, well, why didn't it work? Let me look at every piece that I did, a thorough look into it, to see what things that I could have done differently, right? Or what things that just didn't work, the reason why this didn't work. That's important. That is truly important to do. And so we want to make sure we continue to assess things properly. So that's how you pivot. So I had to go down that rabbit hole and figure out, okay, so what is pivot? How do you pivot? So that's how you pivot. You look at something that didn't work out, you analyze it, you look at every piece of it, and you ask yourself those right questions. So therefore, once you have the answers, you can make a better informed decision going forward, because now you know for sure you will not repeat it the next time. And failure doesn't mean you give up. Failure just means you do it differently the next time. And I had to really come to terms with that, going through my research and looking at things. Is like, you don't abandon things. A lot of people that failed at stuff, they didn't abandon them. They just did things differently the next time, especially when it's something you're really passionate about. And I talk to entrepreneurs every day, all day. And because they're so passionate about what they have, and they're so passionate about what they believe in, that it was never a failure. It wasn't a failure that made them say, I'm not going to do this anymore. Now, they had their moments. Let me just say that. They did have their moments where they felt like, okay, should I be doing this? They did. They had their moments, but they didn't give up. And let me tell you another practical example of pivoting. And it's the story of Slack. We all know Slack. We use it in different organizations. It is a great communication tool, right? Now, originally Slack was an internal tool for a failing game company, right? A gaming company. And when the game didn't take off, this is so amazing when I read this. When the game didn't take off, the founders, they didn't give up. But what they did was that they recognized the potential of their own internal communication tool and pivoted their focus. And now today, Slack is a $1 billion company used by millions worldwide. When I read that, I had no idea that that's how they started. I didn't know there was a failed gaming company that just had a really cool internal communication system between employees. And when the gaming thing didn't work out for them, they just kind of pivoted and focused on what did work for them and decided to say, hey, you know what? This tool works really well for the company we have. Let's see if we can sell it to other people. And now Slack is used almost every organization around the world. Almost every organization. So what does that tell us about failure? Right? When we look at the founders of Slack, when we look at Sarah Blakely, they didn't give up. They didn't quit. They had moments of redetermining if this is what they want to do. And it's okay to have those moments to say, hey, is this really for me? It's okay to have those moments. I don't want us to think that we're supposed to go through this journey and we don't have moments of doubt. We don't have moments of like, I just don't want to do this anymore. I want to give up. I'm pushing through those moments myself. Those moments of, well, why aren't things going the way they're supposed to go? Why am I not selling these digital products like I know I need to? And so I have to step back and I have to say, okay, Shaunie, take a step back. Look at your process. Do you have a system in place for selling these products? Are you putting things into play to help to get the word out about these products? Because when I look at, and it's so amazing why I wanted to have those two examples, because when we look at the track record of successful people who are out there really doing it, they're consistent about it. They stuck with it. And that's what we have to do. Because the emotional side of failure is probably one of the biggest things. It's a natural feeling. It's natural, that is, to feel disappointed, frustrated, right? Even defeated. Because I know we all have. I have been feeling frustrated, disappointed, and defeated myself because of the challenges that I'm facing, because of the failures I feel like I'm facing, and the fact that I wasn't looking at my failures as opportunities. I wasn't looking at ways that I can pivot. I didn't take a step back and look at what didn't work. I just kept saying, I gotta make it happen. I gotta make it happen. When a lot of times we need to pause and figure out, why didn't it work? So it's okay to acknowledge those feelings of frustration and defeat, but you cannot let them paralyze you. You cannot let them make you stop and not continue, because successful people keep going. It's just a certain thing about people who are successful where they're not going to stop. No matter how many no's they get, no matter how many times something fails, no matter how many times something doesn't work out, they're just going to keep going until it does, until they figure out the path to where it does work. And so when you're dealing with the emotional side of failure and that defeat and that not wanting to go on, that's when we have to reach out to our network, right? Our network of supporters, of mentors or friends or fellow entrepreneurs, or even your therapist, because we want to be able to share our experiences. You know what I mean? So we can get a new perspective and much needed encouragement we need on this journey. And I'm telling you right now, on this entrepreneur journey, you have to have a supportive network. And I'm not talking about people who are questioning every move you make, people who are doubting you every time you try to talk about it. You need to get around some real people who understand your process, who understand what you're going through, because not everybody's going to understand it. And so people, when they don't understand something, they tend to go to the negative about it. They tend to doubt it because they can't see themselves doing it. So why would they ever see you doing it? You have to protect yourself. When you want to be an entrepreneur and you have a dream, a passion, or something that you want to do and other people don't, you have to protect yourself. You have to protect your mental. You have to protect your dream. You have to protect your goals. You have to protect yourself, because this is something you want to do, and surround yourself with people who are only encouraging you, people who can understand your journey and help you get to the next one, which is mentors or fellow entrepreneurs. People who can offer you some type of different perspective on what you're going through and what you're dealing with. You have to surround yourself with the right people. It's so important, because that feeds into your mindset on how you view your journey, your life, and yourself. Because at the end of the day, our entrepreneur journey is about us. It is about you and me. So we really have to pay attention to the people we share our dreams, our goals, our failures with. Because sometimes people won't understand it. And the first thing I'm going to tell you, because I've heard this myself numerous times, is you need to go get yourself a job. And there's nothing wrong with it. I worked for a long time. My entrepreneur journey actually was unintentional, right? Because I got laid off. So now I'm on this path of like, you know what? I want to be able to do this for myself. I know I can. I believe in myself. But throughout my journey, I've been feeling like, should I just go back and get a job? Am I really cut out for this? Because I'm not really seeing what I believe I should be seeing. But then I have people who are looking at me, looking at what I'm doing with the podcast and everything else, who think I'm doing so great because they're wishing that they are where I am. Right. And so, but it's that thing of that tug of war where you feel like, should I do this? Should I just go back and get a job? Should I just do that because maybe that'd be a lot easier for me? But then I think about I don't want to give up on myself. I know I can do this. I don't want myself because I know you are listening. I know feeling this. I know you are, because we all do. We get to a point in our lives where we're like, I don't know if this is for me. I'm just going to go back and get a job. I tried. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Like, God, are you listening to me? Are you there? Can you guide me? Can you tell me where to go? Right? And so I think we have to remember that self-compassion is vital to our journey. We have to learn to be kind to ourselves and to recognize that our failures don't define us. It's merely just a part of our journey. And we need to make more an effort to celebrate our progress, no matter how small they may seem. We really need to make more of an effort to do that. And I think that's so important. Have some compassion for ourselves. I know I don't have enough compassion for myself. I know I don't. I could sit here and honestly tell you that I don't give myself compassion. I don't give myself enough grace and say, it's okay, Sean. It's okay, Shaunie. You're still on this journey. It's okay to not have it all figured out. It's okay that something might not be working out right now. You keep at it. It will. So I want to make sure that we stay encouraged on this journey, which is why I decided to do these episodes, because like I said, we get to a place where we can get very discouraged and it can be hard to continue on, but I'm going to do it. And I want to encourage you to do the same and to start looking at these failures as a chance and pivot. Now that we know what pivoting means exactly, right? I'm pretty sure you guys knew, but I'm just saying we need examples of it. But now we know when something doesn't work out, we look at it and say, okay, why didn't it work out? Before I make that next step. Because I think too often what we do is that something don't work out, we jump right to the next thing. We just keep going, right? I'm not even going to look back. I'm just going to move forward. And it's okay to move forward, but you have to look back and say to yourself, well, why didn't it work out? What do I need to do differently to make sure that I don't repeat this again? And so I'm telling you, when I've been doing my research on setbacks and failures and opportunities to set myself for a comeback, to learn from my mistakes, that is one of the key things that stick out the most, is that being able to assess what you did and try to identify maybe what kind of went wrong, why things didn't work out. And once you identify that, you are so much more wiser and smarter to move and take the next steps, the right next steps. So I want you to ask yourself, how can you start turning your setbacks into stepping stones? How can you do it? And if you don't know, I'm going to give you 3 actionable steps, right, that you can actually do. I want you to write these down. Like I said, I'll make sure you always have note, girl, because you got to take note, girl. So I want you to write these down. The first thing you want to do is you want to reflect and learn. After a failure, you want to take time to reflect on what went wrong and why. And you want to write down your observation and the lesson you learned from it. And I think that's so important about reflect and learn, because like I said, I'm so quick to just jump to the next thing, to not look back. and just jump. But I really need to look at, okay, so what did go wrong? Why didn't this thing really work out? Why am I not really selling like I know I should be? And we need to write down what their observations are, write down what our findings are, and the lesson that we believe we learn from it. So that's important. Number 2 is that you need to pivot. When you identify the lesson you learn, you want to use that reflection to adjust your strategies. And you want to be flexible and be open to change. You have to be open to change because sometimes the best opportunities come from unexpected directions. It's not all about what you believe is going to be. It's an unexpected direction. So make sure you are open to change. And then one of the 3 things you want to do, last thing you want to do is that you want to preserve. You want to preserve. Keep moving forward. Persistence is key in entrepreneurship. Every successful entrepreneur has faced failures. And I want us to remember that every successful one, I gave you 2 examples already. But what really sets them apart is their determination to keep going. And I'm telling you, that is so key. That sets successful people apart from unsuccessful people. And that's the determination to keep going. And I want us to make sure we remember that we have to have that determination to keep moving forward, no matter what. No matter what, let's keep moving forward. That's what I want to make sure you guys understand from this episode. So before we wrap up, I want to leave you with this thought. Embracing failure is not about seeking out setbacks, right? It's not about that. It's about recognizing their value when they happen. That's what it's about. I want you to hear me again, because it is what it is. Embracing failures is not about seeking out setbacks, but about recognizing their value when they happen.